Most people don't believe in monsters, but they're real. When someone finds out that monsters are real, it's usually just before they get eaten. But some people are mean enough, smart enough, crazy enough, or hurt enough that they live. And some of those survivors go on a crusade against the monsters. That's you. It could be that you make a stand to defend your hometown from everything evil that comes there. It could be that you take to the road and go hunt them down wherever you can find them. It could be that you have magic powers that put you on an even footing, or that your name came up in prophecies thousands of years ago. The one thing for sure is that you aren't going to go back to your old safe life. Monster of the Week is an urban fantasy role-playing game created by Evil Hat Productions and Michael Sands. It's a pretty niche role-playing game right now, I feel. Not many people play it, at least not many people that I've met, and there isn't much content on it, I've discovered. I decided to make this little beginner's how-to video, and then in the future I'm going to go more in depth on various parts of the game, between the Hunter playbooks, which are your characters that you can select, or the magic that can get a little crazy if you just go with it your first time playing. Monster of the Week is a game made for 3 to 5 people. One person who runs the game is known as the Keeper of Secrets and Mysteries, while the others create characters that are the monster hunters. You can play with more or less, but in my personal experience, one keeper and 3 to 4 characters is a good max, because the game gives a lot of roleplay and improv. It's kind of just like a narrative conversation between the characters and the players themselves. So the more people you have, the less time each individual hunter gets to do their thing, less time in the spotlight, and once you have a bunch of people trying to do things all at once, it gets a little chaotic. And these monster hunters, they're no normal monster hunters. The characters are the ones who decide, with either their success or their failure, life or death, that the rest of the world gets to keep on spinning. Those innocent bystanders and those citizens get to just keep on going with their happy little day-to-day life, forever not knowing that there are monsters lurking in the shadows, ready to kill and eat them at a moment's notice. Average mystery will be 1 or 2 sessions, depending on how long you play or how in-depth the keeper makes the investigation before the final battle with the monster. There are campaigns, but those you'll usually experience just multiple small 1 or 2 session mysteries, all just sort of loosely tied together and leading you with small hints towards the overarching plot, the big monster in charge of everything. The system itself is pretty simple and pretty easy to learn. All that you need are 2 6-sided die, but because this is a horror-themed role-playing game, it's important before you even begin to have a sit-down with your potential players as the Keeper of Secrets and have a safety session where you discuss potential themes. Is your game going to have body horror? Is there going to be in-depth descriptions of blood and gore and death, which are pretty common in horror? You want to make sure that you're not breaching any boundaries with any of your players, because in the end, we're all here to play a game. We're not here to trigger anyone or cross any boundaries or traumatize anyone. We're here to have fun. But in your very first session, where you're going to create your characters, is essentially your session 0, you could say. You never want to sit down and make your character by yourself, because that very first session is where you're going to bridge all of the connections you have with the other hunters that are going to be part of your team. In the character sheet itself, there's a section called Introductions and History, where you go around the table, introduce your character, And for each other hunter, you're gonna pick something on the list on your hunter's playbook. Maybe they taught you how to hunt monsters. Maybe you saved them once. Maybe you tried to kill them. This is where you're gonna make those connections. And there's a lot of different hunters that you can choose to play in Monster of the Week. There's 12 options in the revised edition of the main book. Those being the Chosen, the Crooked, the Divine, the Expert, the Flake, the Initiate, the Monstrous, the Mundane, the Professional, the Spellslinger, the Spooky, and the Wronged. 4 more were added in the Tome of Mysteries expansion book, which are the Gumshoe, the Hex, the Pararomantic, and the Searcher. There are also other playbooks mentioned in Monster of the Week and the Tome of Mysteries that aren't officially published, but they're still listed, and you can find them with a little bit of searching online. But I recommend for your first few times playing, you use some of the 16 that are published in the books themselves. Aside from just listing the names, I'm gonna go more in-depth on the characters that you can play as the Hunter playbooks themselves in future videos, because there's a lot to go into with each. They all have their own descriptions, they all have their own gear, which are your weapons and your other monster hunting paraphernalia that you might bring with you. And they all have their own moves, depending on which one you pick. The moves being special things that only you can do, that you bring to the team, and bring to the mystery in the monster hunt. But one of the first things you're going to do in your session 1 is you're going to come up with a team concept with the Keeper and your other hunters. You don't have to have a team name or any kind of special team, but the main question you're answering here is, why are we working together? The book, the revised version of Monster of the Week, gives a few examples, these being the Slayer and their entourage, where the story is more built around one hunter, and the others are their support group, like the Mentor, the Friend, the Magical Ally. You could be the Unexplained Cases, where you're a government agency, and they send you out for cases that the normal agents really shouldn't and aren't prepared to handle. Maybe you guys belong to a cult or a secret, organization. Then you'd fit in with the example of the Order, where with the Unexplained Cases, you might be able to get, mundane weapons and police escort and, just help that government agencies would be able to give you today. And then with the Order, that's where you get more, contacts and magical assistance rather than the mundane. Maybe someone in your sect has a powerful artifact that you need to use. Well, now you have your contacts. And my personal favorite example that they give is the road-tripping hunter family, which is like in Supernatural or even Scooby-Doo, where you're all either related or very close friends, and you just kind of drift from town to town, dealing with monsters and mysteries that normal people just aren't equipped to handle. Now, if you do happen to look at the hunters before your first session, it's important to make sure that you have several different options that you're interested in playing, because each team can only have one of each hunter. It isn't like other role-playing games where you're just some fighter or some wizard in a grand world with hundreds of fighters or wizards, where you're just an adventurer. You're not an expert. You are the expert. You're not a professional. You are the professional. You are the epitome of that hunter. You're the best at what they do, so if more than one person wants to play the same hunter, it's good to have options. Yeah, once you have your playbook ready, you're gonna make a name, you're gonna make a description, you're gonna pick your special moves, which again I'll cover in future videos. You'll pick your gear, your weapons, whatever other monster hunting tools you might need, and several of the playbooks have different things where it's essentially fleshing out your backstory with the Keeper. This step you might want to do in secret with the Keeper if there's things you don't want the other players to know, or if there's things that you want to keep secret and eventually reveal in the game. Like, if you're the monstrous, maybe the other hunters don't need to know that you are yet. Maybe they don't even know that you can do magic. Maybe they don't know you're a vampire. Or if you're the crooked, the other hunters don't need to know that you're a criminal until it comes up in the game. But this is where you would flesh out, like, what kind of criminal are you? What context might you have? Are there people coming after you? Or do you have a cop that's been hunting you for years who might be a minor villain in your team's mysteries? So that step might be good to do before the game, or to have one-on-ones before you begin your mystery, where the Keeper of Secrets goes, is there anything anyone wants to discuss about your character that you don't want your other hunters to know yet? But with that, now let's talk about how you actually play the game. As I said, it's a narrative back and forth. You're gonna start out where the Keeper will kind of describe the world a little bit, describe maybe where you are in the world, if you're in Canada or the United States or some European or Asian country. They might even give you a clue with kind of like a little bit of foreshadowing, such as, in the dark of the night, a man runs through the woods, howls echoing behind him. He trips and stumbles over a tree limb, and with a flash, the beast chasing him is upon him. There are screams echoing through the night, and blood flies through the air as the creature takes another victim. And then we begin with your hunters hearing about this grisly murder in the woods, and knowing that, yeah, that might not just be a person killing people, or that might not just be a bear. They give you a clue to start out your mystery. And then as you're playing, there are several moves that your character can do, and each move has a rating that it benefits from. The ratings are something that you pick in your character creation. Each character has 4 options. There are various moves that you can be asked to do, or you can even ask to do yourself. When your hunter tries to do something that a normal person just can't do, if it's something you or I could do, it just happens. But if they want to cast a magic spell, fight a monster, or anything that might be more exciting, if it possibly has repercussions that we don't just select, like, say, jumping off of a roof, or pushing someone out of the line of danger, or lying to a police officer or a guard. When you're asked to roll for a move, you roll your 2 6-sided dice, and you add or subtract whatever bonus your rating gives for that specific move. There's Cool, which benefits act under pressure and help out. Tough, which is how well you can kick some ass or protect someone. Charm is how well you can manipulate people. Sharp gives you a bonus to noticing things that are hidden, like if you want to investigate the mystery or read a bad situation. And Weird is a direct link to how tied to the supernatural you are, and how well you can use magic. Now, each of your ratings are going to be capped at either 2 or 3, depending on your hunter and depending on the rating itself, and that'll just be a +2 or +3, or even a +1 or a -1 to whatever you roll on your double-sided dice. There are also other bonuses that you can get as you play, that either you get them from successful rolls of using a move, or a specific hunter move might give you. Forward, which allows you to have a +1 on your very next roll, whatever it is. Ongoing allows you to have a +1 to every roll you make while pursuing a specific course of action. The example the book gives is, say you read a bad situation. You may be given a ongoing +1 while using an escape route you spotted. You get that +1 bonus to any roll while using that specific escape route, but that doesn't apply to after you've escaped, or if you don't or if you decide to not use that route. And then hold is a bonus that gives you a specific amount of points. You can expend one of those points for one specific effect. The move that gave you the hold points will usually define what you can use those holds on. Now, each move has 3 tiers defined by what you roll. If you roll a 10 or more, it's considered great success, and you'll usually get an extra benefit that you can choose. 7 to 9, yeah, you did it, but some moves you may still have some tough choices to make, or you can still be hurt. And anything that is 6 or lower is a miss, and the Keeper is given full reign to make things worse and cause as much chaos as possible for your plans. Now, the moves that you can select are to roll Act Under Pressure, such as if you're barricading a door before a monster arrives, or if you're performing acrobatics under distress, such as climbing a fence while being chased, or picking a lock before an authority figure discovers you. If you roll a 10 or more when you roll Act Under Pressure and you add cool bonus, whatever that might be for you, you do exactly what you set out to do on a 10 or more. On a 7 to 9, the Keeper gives you a worse outcome, a price to pay, a hard choice. Maybe if you're barricading that door, you expose yourself a little bit and you can suffer some harm in the moment. Or if you're picking a lock or hacking a computer, perhaps you break the lock. Or you mess up your hack and your tampering is evident. And on a miss, which is the 6 or below, things go to hell. Your barricade breaks and draws the monster's attention. You don't pick the lock fast enough and the guards draw their weapons, or you fall from whatever you were climbing and you land directly in harm's way, maybe right in front of the monster. Say your friend is doing any of these other moves and you want to help them, because you're a good friend, you want to help your friends succeed. You can roll to help out. Again, you'll roll the 2d6. Once again, you will add whatever bonus you have to cool. Your roll, when you roll help out, resolves before whoever you're trying to help, and the outcome determines if you actually help or if you hinder or hurt their efforts. And it's important to note that you can only have one help bonus on the same hunter doing the same thing, but you can. Say, we'll go with the barricading the door with the Act Under Pressure. Say Bob is rolling Act Under Pressure to barricade the door. You have Jeeves roll help out. And then you have Hannah roll help out on Jeeves' help out. Hannah's roll resolves first and determines if Jeeves gets a bonus to help Bob. So you can chain it, you just can't stack them all on the same hunter. But on a 10 or more, you helped out, you give them a +1 to their roll. On a 7 to 9, you give them that +1, but you put yourself in harm's way. Maybe you're helping them barricade and maybe you knock something over and now you're in the line of sight of the monster. Or you're helping them, you're helping pull them up the side of this cliff, but you start to slip. But on a miss, you don't help at all. You put yourself in harm's way, and you might have to make them change their plans. Move that you'll use a lot, especially at the beginning of a mystery, is Investigate a Mystery. Now in this, you'll roll your 2d6 plus sharp, and this is one of the moves where it gives you those hold points. If you roll a 10 or more, you get 2 hold points, and on a 7 or 9, you get 1. And you can expend those at any time in the session, or even in the mystery, to ask these specific questions of the Keeper. You can ask, what happened here? What sort of creature is it? What can it do? What can it hurt? Where did it go? What was it going to do? And what is being concealed here? Now, when you're investigating, your questions have to be kind of plausible within the scenario, in the moment, and how you're investigating. The Keeper can ask you, how do you discover this information? What are you doing when you learn this? Say you ask, what can it do? The Keeper might ask you, are you looking at research notes? Are you looking at the attack? like looking for tracks or claw marks or poison or venom, because the Keeper's job is to answer truthfully, but not necessarily in full and as narratively as possible. They are not to answer as an omniscient godlike entity. If you miss with Investigate a Mystery, you can reveal information to the monster or whoever it is you're talking to, be it a guard, a citizen, anyone. And the Keeper can ask you those questions, and you must answer them truthfully. Not necessarily in full, much like the Keeper, but you must answer them truthfully. And then the other move that you can use whenever you're rolling sharp with your 2d6 is read a bad situation. You and your team are in danger, and you need a split-second decision or need a hint on how to further proceed, or say you come across that scene in the woods where the murder happened. You could read a bad situation, and this is another move where you get those holds, where you can ask it at any point. On a 10 or more, you hold 3, and on a 7 to 9, you hold 1. And if you use this hold to ask, what's my best way in? What's my best way out? Are there any dangers we haven't noticed? What's the biggest threat? What's most vulnerable to me? And what's the best way to protect the victims? If you act on the answer you get a +1 bonus ongoing while the information is relevant. So say, what's the best way to protect the victims? You would get a +1 on protect someone rolls, or kick some ass rolls, or help out rolls, while you're protecting those victims in that way. It's only applied once to each roll you make, and it ends when you're not following that course of action. And then if you misread the situation. Say you're trying to read a bad situation, and the Keeper knows that the monster is secretly lurking around the corner. Well, you missed. Yeah, everything seems fine. There's nothing going on here. We're perfectly safe. We can just calmly investigate. We don't need to be on guard. Or you reveal tactical details to the monster or to your enemies, in which case the Keeper can ask the questions of you. Manipulate someone is the only move that uses charm, and it's used to get people to do something that they do not want to do. You need a good reason for them to do it, and sometimes you need to bribe them. This is not a roll well and they do whatever you want for no reason. You can't just go up to the police officer, roll a 10 and say, give me your gun and your badge, and they do it. That does not happen. For normal people, on a 10 or more, they'll do it for the reason you gave them. Say, I need your gun, and it's because there's a monster barreling towards you. They can still ask for something small in return. Like, if it's an officer and you say, give me your gun, they could be like, okay, just cover me while I get out of here. Make sure you protect me. Pretty much they give you, what is the bare minimum for me to do this for you? On a 7 and 9, they'll do it. But only if you do something for them right now to prove you mean whatever reason you gave. And if you ask too much, they'll tell you what they want in exchange for them to do it. This is more along the lines of, oh, I'll do it, but you need to pay me. You need to pay up a little bit. Information doesn't come for free. And then if you miss, you either offend or anger your target. Which, if you offend or anger a police officer, probably not the best thing. An important note with Manipulate Someone is it can be used on other hunters. It can. But use it sparingly. And you have to understand that no matter what you roll, it's still their choice if they want to do this action. On a 10 or more, if they do what you ask, they get to mark an experience, and they get a +1 bonus to the next roll they make. On a 7 and 9, they just mark experience if they do what you ask. And then if you miss while trying to manipulate another hunter, it's up to that hunter to roleplay how badly you anger or offend them. and they mark an experience if they do not do what you asked. Which, if you're trying to manipulate someone to do something, they were usually not gonna do it anyway. So if you miss, you just kind of piss them off and they get a free experience point. You can also manipulate a monster, but the only way to do that is to take the Monstrous's special move, Dark Negotiator, and it'll still run you some pretty steep prices and maybe even have some consequences, because they'll still ask for something in return, and monsters have different prices than people. As for tough, the first one I'll talk about is, say someone's about to suffer harm and you want to help them. You would roll protect someone. This is not helping out. Help out is only if the action is not going to do them harm. Because on a success, 7 or more, 10 plus whatever, if it's a success, you protect them, but you'll still suffer some of the harm they were going to receive. It's like jumping in the way. This would be a better example of trying to pull someone up off a cliff, like with a monster chasing after them. You can roll to protect them, but you're probably gonna put yourself in harm's way along the way. On a 10 plus, you can choose an extra benefit. You can choose to suffer 1 less harm yourself. You can make all of the impending danger be focused on you, so you take all the monster aggro, all the harm, rather than splitting it. You can harm the enemy, or you can hold the enemy back from like pursuing or chasing. And on a miss, you make things worse. They slip out of your hand and they fall into the grip of the monster. But what you'll be using tough for probably the most is kick some ass. You are actively inflicting harm to something, and it is inflicting harm on you. This is when you're fighting. When you're shooting and stabbing at the monster, when it's wrapping itself around you, biting you, squeezing you with its tentacles, you're kicking some ass. Each character can only take 7 harm before they die. Attacks and weapons, be they mundane, magical, monster, they all do varying levels of harm. Most will do 0 to 3, which is like being punched, stabbed, shot. Some, which is mostly the main monster, will do 4 to 6. It'll usually be 4. 5 and 6 is more rare, just because you only have 7 HP. And then 7 or more is instant death, and should only occur if you do something that you messed up. Something that would kill a normal human. Like falling off of a mountain, or blowing yourself up and sacrificing yourself, or maybe you got crushed beneath something because you didn't escape in time. Now, armor does exist. Some hunters can get it from playbook-specific choices, or you can acquire it between mysteries. Because between mysteries is kind of when you just go and get additional gear. They'll usually only block 1 or 2 harm. And when I say block, if you have 1 armor and you're attacked by something that does 1 harm, you take nothing. If you're wearing 2 armor, and say the werewolf bites you, you take 4 harm, you take 2 instead. It can become very important the closer you come to solving a mystery if you intend to fight the monster at the end that you have armor. Because if you take 4 or more harm, you become unstable. And while unstable, simple things can become dangerous. And at any point the keeper can tell you, yeah, you're not doing great. Mark another harm because you did that. Say you're swinging an axe with a broken arm, or trying to just run away while bleeding out of 5 different bullet wounds. Once you're unstable, you require serious medical attention. Sleep or first aid will heal 1 harm, but they don't make you stable if you're unstable. There are healing moves in Hunter's playbooks, and each defines how much they heal and if they can make an unstable injury stable. And if you die, you can technically be brought back using the move Big Magic, but it's complicated and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But unless you're very creative, when you're rolling kick some ass, even if you succeed, you and the monster are going to apply damage to each other. On a 10 or more, you get to choose an extra effect. You can get a +1 bonus to your next roll, give it to another hunter. You can do plus more harm with your attack. You can take 1 less harm from the enemy's attack. So say they're hitting you for 3, and you have 2 armor. Choose to take 1 less harm. They just hit you for 3 and you took nothing. Or you can force them where you want them. On a 7 to 9, you just hurt each other. You're just punching each other in the face. And on a miss, you just get your ass kicked. You tried to be cool, it didn't work. You just suffer harm without dealing any. Weird. Weird benefits use magic and big magic. If you're new to the game, be a new hunter or a new keeper, avoid this like the plague. This shit, until you're used to Monster of the Week, and you and your group are a little more comfortable with the game, the playbooks, the moves, the combat, investigating everything, this shit's just pure chaos. I had a group, a little bit of story time from my own experience. I had a group fighting a monster on a plane. Someone tried to kick some ass, or no, they did an act under pressure, and they shot at the monster while it was really far away, so I just said roll act under pressure to see how well you shoot, because there was all kinds of chaos. There's people running, there's other hunters in the way. If you're trying to shoot down a plane while it was crashing, by the way, while it's crashing, you're gonna need to act under pressure. And they didn't roll well, and they shot the fuel tank. So the plane is crashing faster. I had a hex, which is one of the playbooks. The hex is in the Tome of Mysteries, and much like use magic and big magic, I would very much recommend don't pick the hex your first couple times, because they are pretty much all about the use magic move. The spell slinger kind of is built where you don't have to use magic, but the hex definitely is. So planes crashing, monsters charging, people are dying, they're not doing well. The hex decides, I'm going to teleport us out of the plane. Okay, not what I expected. Are you going to take anyone with you? No. Okay. Hunters teleport out, plane falls, everyone inside the plane that wasn't a hunter explodes, and yeah, they did not protect the innocent well. Yeah, big magic, just the use magic itself adds chaos. Big magic is like bringing people back from the dead, banishing, summoning, viewing other places in time, teleporting, barring entry to a specific room to that specific monster. It can break your game if you're not ready for it, I guess is the short of it. I'm gonna cover use magic, big magic, and there's options inside the Tome of Mysteries book for weird moves that aren't use magic. I'm gonna cover all of that in a future video, just because it's so complicated, it's so chaotic, it can break your game, and there's just so much to talk about with it. Just in short, until you're comfortable, ask your players not to use magic. Now, each hunter will also have 7 points of luck, and you can use these points of luck to mark off points at specific times in a game. You can either reduce harm you just suffered to 0, or you can change a roll to 12. Use it sparingly, because it doesn't come back. I've seen some keepers make rules where if you roll a 12 on your 2d6s, like before bonuses, or if you level, or at the end of a session you get a point of luck back, but that's not a set rule. Rules as written, they don't come back. It's meant to be a resource for emergencies, either to keep you alive or to ensure that something that you cannot let fail doesn't fail. Some playbooks have fate or luck related things that cause things from their backstory to come up, which I'll cover in the playbook videos, either when they expend luck or they run out. But there's a very good reason that the luck chart goes from okay to doomed. Once you're out of luck, the Keeper's allowed to throw anything at you. The worst possible things. Fate wants its payment. Many hunters who use all of their luck perish in the course of that mystery or the next mystery, just because you're not lucky anymore. All of your safety net is gone. Now, I've mentioned experience points a couple times. Leveling mid-session can happen, very often as a matter of fact, and it can be very useful to have happen in the middle of a session, because it lets you upgrade your hunter, give you some new skills that can be very useful for your current mystery. You can get an experience point when you miss with a move, which is when you roll a 6 or lower after your bonus, or when a move tells you to, such as with the Mundane or when you manipulate a hunter. And once you mark 5 experience, you can choose an improvement from your playbook. These are like increasing a rating by 1, getting another hunter-specific move, getting a move from another playbook, and then once you have leveled 5 times, you can start choosing from your advanced improvements if you want to. Now, I'll go over all the improvements and the advanced improvements in a future video as well, because there's a lot. I'll talk about the hunter-specific ones in the hunter videos, and there are some that are like generic, and I'll probably just talk about those in a future video as well. But at the end of a session, the Keeper will ask a few questions. Did you conclude the mystery? Did you save someone from death or worse? In the case of my airplane game, no. Did you learn something new or important about the world? And did you learn something new or important about one of the hunters, which is why it can be important to keep things of your backstory secret. If you answer 1 or 2 yes answers, then every hunter marks 1 experience. If you get 3 or 4 yes answers, everyone gets 2 experience. And in the average session, you'll usually get 2 or 3. You'll either learn something new about the world, save someone from death, or learn something about one of your friends. So expect to get at least 1 experience at the end of each session. That's pretty much the beginnings of how to play the game. After your initial session, where you set up all your hunters, many games follow the same flow. You get the clue, you make a plan, you use your moves to investigate, you interview witnesses, you look into weird events, you find out where the monster is, you find out how to deal with it, you find out what the monster is, you protect the bystanders, which is important. You are the heroes in this game. It is your job to kill the monster and protect the innocent. And at the end of the mystery, or the end of the campaign, you kill that monster. You kill it, you banish it, whatever it takes, you deal with that monster. And it's important to understand that in this game, you only have 7 life. You will die. Your friends will die. Sometimes that's just how it happens. Sometimes you have to sacrifice yourself for the greater good. I really hope that some of you learned something from this. This is my first time recording something like this, so cadence might be a little off. I'm gonna get some editing going in the future. And yeah, give me comments on tips on how I can do this better in the future. I want to get an actual recording studio set up so I don't just have the green screen background. The office behind me is a little bit of a mess at the moment. But yeah, in future videos, I have a lot of plans with Monster of the Week. I'm gonna dive into Use Magic, Big Magic, the other options. I'm gonna go 1 by 1 down the playbooks on what your options are, how they play, what your gear can be, what your improvements are, what the advancements can be for leveling. And I'll also start getting into the Keeper side of things, how to make a story, how to make a monster, how to play the NPCs. Because there's different NPCs. There's minions, there's victims, there's allies, there's all kinds of things to get into with this game. Lots of content that really isn't out there yet. And especially with all the crap happening with Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro right now, need to help teach people how to play some other tabletop role-playing games, you know? Yeah, if you enjoyed this, give it a like, give me a subscription if you really enjoyed it. And like I said, give me some comments on ways I can improve in the future, because I want to do this full-time. I really do. I want to make content full-time. I had plans to do it with D&D, and then all this crap happened. So now I'm branching out into other tabletop role-playing games. I know Monster of the Week the most, so this is what I'm starting with. I will eventually start linking my Patreon once I get it fixed up, because I had it set up for the D&D content, but you know the answer. But yeah, if you're interested in Monster of the Week, both the revised edition of the game and the Tome of Mysteries books can be found at evilhat.com, and I'll put that link in the description. But yeah, I hope you all enjoyed. I hope you all learned something, and I hope you're looking forward to future videos. I will say, for the for the hunter playbooks, I'm gonna be cosplaying as those hunters in those videos. I have some ideas. It's gonna be cool. Yeah, I hope you guys play some Monster of the Week, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. I really need to get some more games going, because it's been a while since I played. Either run it or played. Yeah, with that, thank you everyone for watching and for hanging out in here as long as you did. I'll see you in future videos.